So we should have online at Zoom, Igor Zgrabljić. I'm very sorry if I really butchered your name. Hi, Igor. Can you see me? I think hopefully this camera sees me over here. Can you see? Yeah, you can hear. Can we bump up his volume? I'm sorry, I'm looking down at you at the monitor, but I'm going to try to look at every once in a while in your face. If it's good to have you. I'm just going to announce you for a little bit, and then I'm going to sit down and have a discussion. But Igor is the manager of government affairs and public policy at Google. He's an expert in public policy, economic diplomacy, and investment promotion. Member of the Google's government affairs and public policy team, he is responsible for Southeast Europe. His role covers a broad range of regulatory and policy issues, and he leads Google's work with policymakers, government officials, key political stakeholders in the region. And today we are going to be discussing the digital transformation and strategic transatlantic partnerships in the CEE region. Igor, thank you for being with us. Appreciate it. You don't see this, but there's a bunch of people in the audience here with you, and there's a bunch of people watching online, so we really appreciate you taking the time. I see there is a nice atmosphere. Actually, Sofia was one of the rare places I was able to visit a few times during the pandemic, so I am extremely grateful for that, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to be with you today. That's right. Last time I saw you, you were, well, last time was in Riga actually, but before that in Bulgaria, you were at the Insight launch last year, so it's good to see you. It's lovely to see they have the world map behind you. It's really great, great touch.
Yeah, it helps the perspective on a daily basis.
I'm going to jump right into questions because we have quite a few. I'd love to just get more of your input rather than mine. And it's probably a sort of a macro question first, but then zooming into Google after. The macro question is, how would you say digital transformation could be the driver of economic prosperity more broadly, but then specifically, how does Google facilitate the creation of those digital, inclusive, and sustainable, economic recovery areas in the region, in the CE countries?
Right. So thanks for the question. Google is definitely committed to the CE region. As you know, there are many initiatives also involve personnel in the organization, and traditionally, it's investments, it's programs, and a lot of product efforts as well. So the potential that Google sees in the region is tremendous, like the digital ecosystem for many years, and the growth that we've seen in CE compared to some other countries in Europe is like really great. Last year, our CEO visited Europe, and there was a lot of things which were announced, and especially in the midst of the war in Ukraine, we have really doubled down our work on misinformation, on cybersecurity, and other challenges that were there. Just to give you a short insight what was happening during the war in Ukraine, which is not directly to your question, but I think it's important for the audience and in general. So we have taken numbers of actions, but definitely the 4 pillars were preventing disinformation, which were like robust, as you can imagine. Second was actually to continue to provide information, because you cannot, remove all the information online. Then the third thing is ensuring cybersecurity, which is still one of the main priorities of most of our governments in CE especially, and then obviously the humanitarian assistance. And to that point, we as a company, together with Google.org, who was working closely with Tuk-Tam as well, has mobilized a total of $45 million to provide in assistance. But in addition to that, our commitment to the region has been seen in Poland, where we invested $70 million in our modern office there, and actually that's our largest cloud engineering team. What is important, I think, everything goes beyond Poland, and we are also increasing the presence in the other parts, such as Romania, and also the way we supported is also a good signal that we are seeing a lot of talent, a lot of potential everywhere, I would say. So to just shortly digest and touch upon your question, like invest in the region in the future. And what we've seen coming 2 days ago, which I will touch upon probably a bit later, the McKinsey report on the digital transformation in CE, it's like the numbers are really on our end and confirm this.
And so how, if you had to kind of look forward in the next 5 to 10 years, how would you say that you see the CE countries on a sort of digital and tech map, or on a European digital and tech map? how does our region fare in the next 5 to 10 years?
Right. So look, as I told you 2 days ago, McKinsey Digital published a really great report, which I would recommend to everyone in the audience. It's called Digital Challengers on the Next Frontier in CEE. So just to give you a bit of background, so McKinsey has had the first report, which they call Digital Challengers in the Next Decade, where they divided the countries in terms of digital progress in two groups. The digital frontrunners, which would be more the Nordics and Benelux and Western countries, and digital challengers. Challengers is predominantly our region, right? So the new report, which is a refresh report, which came out yesterday, was really, really interesting because there are a couple of takeaways. One is more than 200 billion euros in additional value that you can capture in the next 8 years to 2030 in our region. And most of it is in digital commerce as the main driver. Then the second one is that in the past 2 years, the digital commerce in our region grew by around 20 billion euros, right? And that accounts for 80% of the whole digital economy. So the digital economy has grown, and 80% was e-commerce, right? So in a nutshell, the digital economy, in our region, it's at the same important for improving our resiliences. Like you've seen governments investing a lot in networks, data analytics, fluency, cybersecurity, and so on. So there is a huge potential public sector. Then businesses, I think, and you know that for Bulgaria, to leverage digital and data solutions much more, because customers are coming with their needs, with their inquiries, with their asks, and we think that digital is probably one of the ways how that can be embraced, especially where in countries like Bulgaria, where SMBs are a large chunk of the economy. So that's something that we're seeing, and we think also policy making, which is my predominant focus in my work. Policymakers are also key to unlock the digital potential, because the growth can be only supported with smart regulation and regulation which would, take the consideration of all the opportunities of digital, but at the same time be mindful about the needs of the users and all other areas of that front.
And in what you just described, what would you say is the role of the Transatlantic Partnership and the what's called the TDC, the Trade and Technology Council, for the future of progress for the growth in our region?
Well, I would put it really simply. The world is so complex today that no one can solve what we're facing in any area on its own, right? So any challenges that we're facing are basically global. So a close transatlantic partnership between the EU, I would say CE capitals, is like really critical, especially with the Russian invasion to Ukraine. Like that's a totally new light was shed on EU vulnerability, on digital resilience, innovation, cybersecurity, and so on. So we think that the Trade and Technology Council, for those members of the audience who are not so much into it, it's basically a platform where the US and the European Union will actually coordinate regulation and actually agree on the technological progress, how they view the technological progress, how it should be regulated, I would say. And I think that's the only way and the only mean to keep internet open, inclusive, and an opportunity for everyone, as it was envisioned from the beginning, right?
By the way, if I can turn back to more so your experience specifically, you have a lot of experience in Croatia. You co-founded and led some of the leading NGOs that promote youth engagement, entrepreneurship, investment promotion. What are the lessons you can draw from that experience that you kind of want to share today? What is something that perhaps Bulgaria can learn in this?
Well, I remember the first time when I heard about the word proactive. It was funny because I thought you cannot add a word to active. But, then I learned that in the years to come, I think a proactive mindset is really key in unlocking like new opportunities for improvement, for societies, humanity in general, and our lives. In addition, I would say, like if you're really, really into something, you have to be devoted, you have to, you'll get discouraged, you get bored, you get demotivated after some attempts or trials. But I think it's really key to build one's own resilience and to just proceed in what you think it's a good path forward. And finally, I think it might sound strange, but I think everyone should stay curious. Almost like who goes around and wants to learn about the world, the relationship between water, fire, I don't know. And I think people have the tendency with age and this self-proclaimed getting more serious and so on, they just stop being curious. And I think that's really, really important to keep that mindset alive.
Last year when you were in Bulgaria for Insight's launch, you announced that Google would be investing $3 million over the next 3 years in the initiative, providing them with cloud computing resources, access to specialized infrastructure, etc. In your mind, by the way, Martin Vechev, the professor, he was here on the stage earlier today, so we are very much connected with Insight as well. He's a tremendous person, as you probably know well. But how would you say this initiative, Insight, attracts top researchers within the region to Bulgaria, and it also motivates Bulgarians across the globe to kind of look back to Bulgaria as a place to thrive?
Look, we are immensely proud to support the work of Insight. First of all, Eastern Europe, as we know, it's an incredible talent pool of computer scientists, engineers, and at the same time, you have a lot of people like that from Bulgaria. So as much as your organization is doing, there's so much work to be done, in this field that we want to embrace. That's AI, computer science, and initiatives where the government is really active. And we think the Bulgarian government really did a good job by supporting and endorsing this with actually, its own money. I think that's really a good signal, and it's a good sign that companies like ours and others have invested and supported Insight, because that's a strong message to everyone that there is credibility, there is liability there is some really important organizations and people who are supporting, and it's inspiring, because it's also a multi-level, multi-stakeholder project. This is what we liked about Insight, and in addition to being just a natural hub of technical talent, if it will bring new ideas that could continue to drive the economy and bring some new solutions to the world and the IT sector, that would be great.
Your nonprofit arm, Google.org, was certainly you invest a lot into this ecosystem through Google.org. So I was saying, Tuk-Tam last year was one of the participants in the Google.org Impact Challenge, and we certainly benefited a lot from the program that you guys set up and invested. I think it was around $2 million they invested in this program. That, again, helped us sustain our organization, keep promoting what we do and developing our growth. Are you guys planning on continuing to empowering other individuals and communities to gain skills in that fashion in the future?
Absolutely. Our aim with the Google.org arm of Google is definitely to empower nonprofits as yours, social enterprises, academic institutions, and so on, and to really focus on digital inclusion. The pandemic really showed that there is a lot of groups in our society which are not digital included. That means, how we can bring technology innovation to help these individuals and communities, through. Now it's not the pandemic anymore, but now you have the economic recovery which is coming. So. Yeah. We really believe, it's kind of like, the digital economy should work for everyone. It's not straightforward, and that's a challenge. That's why organizations like yours and the other winners of the Impact Challenge are critical, because they're actually they're doing the job on the ground, and we just see our Google.org as a way to contribute and to support this kind of initiative. So to your question, we are definitely planning to continue with our support to both individuals and communities, and probably the focus will be on the economic recovery and sustainable inclusion of everyone.
It's interesting what we found in Bulgaria, and maybe that's a question for you if it's the same in other CE countries, but we found that there's, I wouldn't say huge, but certainly a sizable youth unemployment, whereas at the same time, the business is complaining from the lack of people. And you think, you should be able to put these two together and, include some of those guys who already have smartphones, they are digitally connected, but somehow these two don't match. And that's really something we're thinking of in Bulgaria as an organization. But do you find something similar across the region in the many countries that you operate in and support?
In some, and I think the challenges which are there is one of the couple of reasons that come to my mind and that we've seen is the gap between the skills which are provided by the educational system and what's needed from the real sector. Second, I would say we have a traditional really strong family ties where kids can actually stay and live with their parents, so there is not so much pressure on efficiency on the children and the young as it's in the United States, where when you're 18 you're leaving your house. So I think then also you have a structure of GDP. Example, Croatia, GDP is 20% of our economy is tourism. So people are renting apartments, houses, so there's again not pressure on efficiency, or people are actually much better than it's seen in the numbers. So it's kind of like it's a mixed bag of different things, but definitely there is a gap. And we think that that's why we have a lot of programs which are aimed at providing digital skills, free digital skills like Grow with Google programs and so on, because this gap is actually something that could help a little bit to include those young generations more in the labor force.
Well, we certainly appreciate the support you've given us and the whole region. That's certainly something that I wish more governments did, and so I'd like to thank Google.org for that. Any final piece of advice to young people of Bulgaria? I mean, the audience of Tuk-Tam is predominantly, in their, if not the first career step, certainly in the first stages of their career growth, and they're looking to advance. What would you say your advice would be to the young people of Bulgaria who are listening in now?
Well, so I would probably reframe it as more as my experience rather than advice. I would say, work hard and be definitely ready to make an extra mile in whatever you're doing. Like if you want to, you've been running this organization from 2008, what does it mean to deliver every year? So I would say do an extra mile and keep, with the hard work. Second, again, stay curious, ask questions. We have like a glass half full. Yeah. I really think that people are, especially young people, they should never treat themselves as full glasses. If you're a full glass, nobody can add anything. No knowledge, no idea. So always think of, trying to come to places you want to learn and be curious about things. I would say listen more, talk less. People have the tendency, if you talk too much, you're just listening to yourself. But if you listen and ask questions, you will be learning much more. So do probably like 20-80. I would say that's, of course, there are some times like right now I have to talk, but generally 20-80 approach, questions, talking, and listening, talking is much better. And finally, which is kind of like also, I think important, don't take yourself too seriously. Yeah. Time is short. Life can switch over. You see what happened to the Ukrainian people. Yeah. So, have fun, and work hard, but at the end of the day, don't take yourself too seriously.
Don't be evil, I think a company once said as well.
Good
Igor,
point. Good point.
You said it was your experience, but your experience is wonderful advice for everyone. So I'd like to thank you for the time you've given us, and we hope to see you soon physically in Bulgaria again. And much appreciated. Stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the meaningful work that you're doing.
Thank you, Igor.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.